All right, raise your hand if you've ever had one of those shin splints that like literally has you just walking like you can't even, can't even bend your calf. Don't even mention using it. So I am someone that enjoys running, not quite like John to that point, but I do really like running. And whenever I first started running, literally for like the first 2 months of running, I just had constant cycles of shin splints. Like I'd literally go for a run, shin splint, let it recover, go for another run, shin splint. Like it just was awful. And through that I knew, I was like, yeah, I have to keep running though. I persevered because I knew my calves needed to get stronger. But also through that I learned that I needed to kind of perfect my form and technique when I ran so I could protect myself from not getting a shin splint. But in that I learned that when it comes to running, it not only matters that you run, but it matters how you run. And so how you run matters. And Paul talks about this in 1 Corinthians 9, 24 to 27. He says, "Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to win the prize." Everyone who competes in the games and goes into strict training, they do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. How you run matters. Paul is using running as an imagery for our faith and walk with Christ. And in that, to win is to have eternal life with Jesus. But within this passage, it's found within a larger argument that Paul is making to the Corinthians. You see, the Corinthians at the time, they were eating food that had been sacrificed to idols. And so Paul is saying, he's like, yes, okay, eating food, sacrificed to idols is not the end of the world in terms of your body and how it affects you, but it does affect the people around you. So at the time, sacrificing food to idols or sacrificing animals to idols was common for the pagans and the non-Christians. But for the believers to then eat this food, it just was confusing or inconsistent and can cause them to stumble. It affected their credibility and their witness of who Jesus is. And so Paul is saying that it matters how you run because how you run affects the people around you. So how should we run? Paul says, run in such a way as to win the prize. Run to win. And this means that we do not do our very least or the bare minimum just to maintain our relationship with God, but we do everything that we can. We give God everything that we have, not only for us, but for the people around us. And so in this last week, I've just kind of been reevaluating what that looks like in terms of my strategy and how I run my race for Christ. And so I want to challenge you today to just reevaluate how you run for Jesus. What would it look like to run harder and faster with more discipline or more intentionality? What would you need to let go of, or what would you need to start doing? You are the expert of you, and you would know what it is that you are lacking. And so I want to ask you, who in your life is affected by how you run? Is there anything diminishing your ability to effectively witness to others? If you guys want to bow your heads and pray with me. Dear Jesus, God, I thank you so much for who you are. God, I pray for every minister in this room. God, I pray, Jesus, that you would just help us to run with everything that we have, God. Right now in this moment, Jesus, we just give you our everything. God, I pray that you would help us to reevaluate what our strategy is and how we run for you, God. I pray that you would place the right people around us and the right friends in our lives, God, that are going to push us. And in that, Jesus, help us, God, to be a witness to others, Jesus, that how we run would speak loudly and clearly to the non-believers in our lives, Jesus. I pray that you would mold us and shape us and help us to run for you. We love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.